did about $4.4 million in the last 30 days. And what I'm going to go through today is market sophistication. A lot of e-commerce founders don't understand what market sophistication is. And when they actually go to build out their customer avatars, they fail to integrate this market sophistication element to it. And that's why their ads, fail to perform a lot of times. And even the perfect avatar won't help you, if your message doesn't match the market sophistication levels. And there's always there's this gap between the avatars and the sophistication of the market. And that impacts your ads performance a lot more than you actually realize, particularly in competitive niches. So I'm going to go through this quick presentation with you guys and give you guys an action plan on how to incorporate market sophistication into your messaging, into your great strategy, so your ads can perform better. All right. So this is the fatal flaw. Let me move this. Essentially, everyone goes for the avatar first, right? They define the avatar, they create ads, and then launch ads, and then they get crickets. Like the ads just don't work as well as they normally think it will because they do an avatar first approach and overlook the market sophistication part. But when you start looking into the market sophistication part, then you can understand why maybe your ads aren't working. Because there's 5 stages to it. And this is Eugene Schwartz's work. If you haven't read his book, you should. It's ridiculous. And he talks about these 5 stages, right? The first one is first to market. So simple claims work, meaning that you could almost just say anything and it'll work. Like, this pill will help you lose weight. And because there's no competition, there's clear benefits, and everyone's just going to buy it. And then there's early competition. That's when you need to start exaggerating your claims, like lose 10 pounds in 7 days. And then competitors start to escalate their promises to stand out from the market. And then the third step is market saturation. That's when customers are starting to get skeptical. And that's when you'll see how they will start to maybe give you more education on how the product actually works. Example, burn fat by activating the metabolism of this cell and that cell, whatever it might be. Then stage 4 is mechanism competition. And this is where you see a lot, particularly in this market today, where people are thinking of new unique mechanisms that exist to prove that, our unique mechanism works and all the others didn't to date because of X, Y, Z. And then you have complete sophistication, right? Consumers resist all claims. And this is maybe where we're kind of at in terms of the supplement market. Everything's based on brand identity, community or compelling stories that actually break through. You see brands like, Ghost that went completely lifestyle in terms of their identity and cut through. You see a lot of brands doing well who are influencer driven, right? Because they have some brand identity behind them in terms of the influencers, and that's why they're starting to work. But ultimately, supplements, fat burners, whatever it might be, they've been kind of done and dusted, right? So you have to go to this new level of sophistication if you want to stand out. Now, here's some real world examples to try and drive this point home. So you have first to market example is fitness trackers for Fitbit, 2009 to 2011. Like the step tracking on a wristband was a completely new and novel concept. So all they had to do is say, this watch counts your steps. Super basic functional claims, and everyone bought it and went nuts. It was in pretty much every retail store in the fucking world. And then stage 2 is like the competition starts emerging, right? An example for early hoverboards, there was numerous brands entering the market, and then the messaging that worked, because I was in this industry, was like, ours are safer, they don't blow up, they go for longer, the battery's bigger, they ride faster, the number 1 brand in the world. These promises were amplified, and that's what kind of worked. Another example is market saturation with LED masks. So consumers became skeptical about the efficacy. And that's where we had to now start to engage into doctors and dermatologists to message and speak to the consumers actually about how it works, to educate them on that process. And then we have mechanism competition. You have the mattress market, right? All brands claimed, comfort, support, sleep benefits. And the messaging that worked was for the Gel Flex grid of, I think it was Purple, use this? Purple, yeah. They essentially said that they created this new Gel Flex grid. That's a unique mechanism, and that provides you, relieve pressure, made you cool at night. They had to create a whole new mechanism to compete that market. And then you look at someone who nailed, a market that's been saturated in complete sophistication, Liquid Death. They sold literally water in a can. And the water market was saturated with claims about purity and, minerals and that kind of stuff, been done a million times over. But the messaging that worked was like murder your first, death to plastic. And that shifted the whole identity around their marketing, around their brand identity, and the people that bought that product. So hopefully you can see now these 5 examples how depending where you are in that sophistication side of the market, you have to completely change your messaging, completely change it. Doesn't matter how much you understand your avatar, doesn't matter what creatives you have. If you don't understand this, nothing will work. So why stages 3 to 5 are dominant in modern e-commerce, right? Because you know there's so many different competitors now. Most niches are crowded. It's like 20 different competitors visible just on Amazon, and traditional stage 1 to 2, like bigger, better, faster, fails in all these type of markets. So if you're using that stuff in terms of your messaging, you're going to fail, because today's consumers are very, very sophisticated and they're research heavy because they have access to everything at a click of a button. So you can't really use these basic claims. And it says here like 78% of people do research first. And now 69% are story driven. Their decisions are influenced by the brand values, the brand story. This is why this stuff's important. We hype about this in Ecom Architects, how to create a brand story. And fundamentally, this shift pushes most marketers to stage into 4 or 5, but maybe 3 sometimes as well. But ideally 4 or 5 if you want to get scale. So now I'm going to talk to you guys about market sophistication versus market awareness, like the critical distinction. So market awareness is like, do they know they have a problem? And then market sophistication is, how many claims have they heard? Do they know the solution exists? How immune are they to marketing? Are they actively seeking help? What promises have failed? What urgency level? How complex must your approach be? Like, these are the 2 different polarities in terms of those 2. We spoke about market levels in previous videos as well. So understanding this distinction is critical for your success, right? Consider chronic back pain. Sufferers are problem aware. They know they have a back problem, but they're highly sophisticated. They've seen 100 different ads, based on experience and failed solutions. They resist all these claims, saying that fix your back in 30 days. Whatever. Everyone fucking said that, and they're just numb to that messaging, right? And there's a concept called semantic satiation that actually proves that the consumers, when they see your ad, they just become numb to it because they've seen it a million times. So sophisticated buyers will ignore those general promises. You need truly unique mechanisms to freshen and refresh education and or resonating brand, right? So if you ignore that sophistication level and you're focusing on your awareness, you just waste your ad spend. That's why most e-commerce brands and advertising make this mistake. They treat sophistication market like an unaware one. You're shouting loud in a room where everyone's already just tuned out. So for this, in terms of like, if you're going to approach, the chronic back market, you need to create a unique mechanism, at least in that stage 4 or potentially 5, that shows that your way of solving that problem is just so different to everyone else's because of X, Y, Z. If not, you're going to have an extremely hard time in scaling your ad account. So now I'm going to go through 3 different ways on how you can actually attack that, right? The first one is the new mechanism we spoke about. Like, this is the secret engine behind your results. But this is generally, a new method for results, highlight unique technology, a process, ingredients, sometimes even just branding it and giving it a trademark or a logo as to your own unique way of doing something is enough. And it definitely works best in stage 3 or 4, where the consumers know the problem and they're aware of all these different existing solutions and they're just ready for new innovation. And the purpose mattress example was exactly that. Now, some mistakes people, I see do is they get way too technical. Mechanism needs to be unique, but extremely simple, as if you're explaining to, someone in grade 5 or 6. That's why I use the Hemingway app or use ChatGPT to make sure they can explain your story or your unique mechanism in, say, a kindergarten principle way. That's the way we frame it. And the new mechanism strategy will help your sophisticated customers, right? Because it offers them new hope. Example, let's say you take the fat loss industry. A lot of stuff really doesn't actually work. So they've failed. They've tried 100 things that's failed, but then your unique mechanism gives them hope that maybe your solution is the one that's going to help them. Okay, that's what requires a completely different approach. And your mechanism must be credible, like you need scientific enough to prove it, and communicatable, makes that simple enough to understand, like I said, in that kindergarten language. And back to this, like, literally get your unique mechanism, ask ChatGPT, how can I explain this concept to a kindergarten? Like, as an example, when we're talking about the microinfusion for our product, quite often it's like you're punching tiny holes in your skin. It's like a garden. It needs to, allow the nutrients to absorb and go in the soil and stuff like that. And that's how it can replenish your skin. Like, any story or narrative that allows it to be super, super simple. So strategy number 2 is new information, which is like the educational angle, right? So you want to reframe the problem, educate your market to unknown aspects of their problem solutions, and gain authority with fresh perspectives. That's why we have this kind of short form BSL formula that we teach inside Ecom Architects, where essentially you're talking about the problem they have in a physical and emotional way. And then you're speaking to them about the root cause of the problem. So not only I'm speaking to them about why they have this physical and emotional problem, but then I'm explaining to them how that problem comes about. I'm explaining to them, I understand you, I understand what's happening with you, and this is exactly how the problem's occurring. Then once I explain to them how the problem's occurring, I gain authority in their minds, and then I provide my unique mechanism as a way to solve it, because now I understand the problem, and my ability to solve the problem is direct correlation to the root cause of the problem. Okay. Then you have ways like, the ordinance example. They disrupt skincare with super, transparent ingredients, so like one ingredient at a time, showing customers what they bought, not just, mystery. Then you can build authority and trust, be an educator, not just a seller. Teaching builds trust and differentiates you from promotional competitors, like we spoke about. So this like new information strategy is in stages 3 or 4 is great. Customers appreciate this deeper knowledge. And a lot of the times the best ads don't look like ads. You're educating in the first maybe 30 seconds to a minute, and then the product comes into play. That's what I see working a lot these days for this reason. And yeah, like generally provide insights. Educational content must fill real knowledge gaps and challenge conventional wisdom. And knowledge-based differentiation is harder to copy than just feature-based claims, building a lasting competitive advantage. So if you become educated in the market, then you see a lot of brands trying to do this. That's why they're winning. And then the new identity. Who do you become with your product? This is where the community and identity shift comes. In stages 5, this is very prevalent in, say, apparel brands. Like if you don't create identity around apparel brands, then who are you? Like what's the difference in your t-shirt and someone else's? And this is where you can start, have tribe building, in terms of having a belonging for like-minded customers. Like, for example, if you're selling, it depends. Like if you're selling, let's say, skincare, but you're from the angle that, it's no toxic chemicals or natural ingredients, then you're creating identity. Someone that doesn't believe in the system of the typical pharmaceutical companies, producing these toxic ingredients, these synthetic ingredients. You're all natural, blah blah blah. That's when you can start building some authentic brand values, right? And you see Liquid Death, exemplifies this. They sell an anti-establishment identity, not just water. Customers make a statement about who they are when they actually buy Liquid Death. You know something about someone when they buy Liquid Death. I think Red Bull does a great job of that as well. So this is what you want to kind of do. Very hard to do. I get it. But long term, if you can do this, you can see why. If you can nail, the sophistication level of 5, all your marketing become easier. So this is why the avatars come second, right? And you need to have the sophistication first framework. Because when you map the market sophistication levels, you can analyze your competitors, the customers' response, and identify the market stages. You can choose your strategic response, whether you can do a new mechanism, information-based or identity-based strategy. Okay, you need to find an aligned avatar, craft your customer profiles based on your strategic approach here, and then you can create, a cohesive campaign. Launch your avatar that's in relation to the market sophistication, and that's why you don't design your avatars first, because that's what leads to misalignment. And this framework that I'm showing you here allows you to meet strategic market needs, right? Filters the needs and pain points through this market sophistication lens. This is your action plan. I want you guys to go back and map your market, analyze the top 10 competitors, their promises, their unique claims, their mechanisms, and gauge the market sophistication level. Define your stage, right? Stage 2, your featured benefits, your 3 or 4 mechanisms, or stage 5, brand and community. And then craft your strategy, new mechanism, information, stage 5, whatever it means, and then align your avatars. Market sophistication pre-exists. You don't choose it, right? This is something that you don't have any decision over. It just is what it is. And you have to understand that misaligned messages or your message renders avatar uselessness, meaning that your advertising dollars are going to go in the bin. So to prove your ad performance, make sure you define the sophistication level so you destroy that gap from your avatar sophistication. Prioritize market sophistication to craft specific advertising messaging. So then you'll speak louder, right? And then you'll dominate this because you'll have this sophistication level first approach. So hope that helped. Drop some comments below if this isn't clear, if you want me to go deeper on some things. But this definitely has helped us and a lot of the students in our community. And look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Peace.